Hello, and welcome to F1 Into the Barrier with me, George Close, reviewing the Azerbaijan Grand Prix in Baku. And it was certainly a poised race, an interesting weekend, that's for sure. Championship-wise, what it says about the drivers and the teams at the moment, I think you can derive a lot from this weekend without it being a particularly exhilarating Grand Prix. We'll come on to why it maybe didn't live up to the full expectation on the Sunday. But first, the Saturday, what a long qualifying session. We had, coming into qualifying, it's the hope that kills you, we had a very strong Ferrari performance in the Friday practice sessions. Lewis looked particularly good, didn't he? Seemed to be on top of Charles early on. But come qualifying, we had not one, not two, not three, not four, not five, but 6 red flags. My God, a record. So we had Alex Albon. I mean, they were all driver errors, really. It was a tough qualifying, very windy and gusty by all driver accounts. And yeah, they were just trying to cook it. And we had a little bit of drizzle as well, just to put some doubt in people's minds. And I think it was really a qualifying of mixed opportunities in a marathon qualifying sprint. So yes, we had Albon, Hulkenberg, Colapinto, Behrman, Charles. We've seen him have a red flag before in Q3, haven't we? And then most surprisingly, championship leader Oscar Piastri makes a mistake and crashes. And at that moment, we had Carlos Sainz on pole because he'd put the lap in. And that was looking interesting, wasn't it? Because if rain had come, he would have been on pole. But it came, but it wasn't strong enough to put off the drivers being able to do another qualifying lap. And so at that moment, you're thinking, Lando Norris, your time has come to put down a statement and say this championship is still wide open. And he went through, and much like his teammate, he had a little slip, didn't he, in the drizzle and touched the barrier after having not a great lap. Probably could have qualified higher than he did, but he found himself after that lap down in 7th. Carlos Sainz retains 2nd. Liam Lawson, again, puts in a spectacular lap to get 3rd. Yuki Tsunoda had a pretty good qualifying, but his teammate, Max Verstappen, unbelievable qualifying this year. The man is just unrelentingly quick. And because I don't think there's a pressure of the championship, not that he's particularly felt pressure over the last few years, because he's been so much better than his teammates and the car's been so much better. When Red Bull, with their new upgrade from Monza, where they've changed the flooring and they seem to feel they've got a much better balance now, and maybe that's why we're seeing Yuki perform better as well, it is slippery and it is clearly very quick and very much so in the hands of a very capable qualifier like Max Verstappen, who's having his best qualifying year continues. He puts in a supreme lap and is really putting himself in a class above the other drivers at the moment. And I'll talk about this later, but who do you think is actually the best driver this year, or the best drivers? Because arguably, it's neither of the McLaren drivers. Might be Oscar Piastri, but we'll come on to that. So, what else happened in qualifying? We had Lewis Hamilton go out in Q2, wrong tyre. They'd bolted up. He didn't have time to do a final run. Everyone else was on the medium tyre. He was on the soft tyre. Disappointing. Yeah, some Ferrari strategy mixed in with some Lewis not great Saturday performance, I think explains that one. I think thankfully him compared to his teammate, it didn't look too bad and ultimately finished ahead of his teammate in a little bit of minor controversy. We'll come to that. And I don't think we need to talk about qualifying anymore. It was a marathon, not a sprint, despite it being a qualifying. And I think it created an interesting race where we had people clearly out of position, although whether or not the racing bulls are out of position at the moment is something we need to talk about because they're regularly putting in good qualifying and one of them normally gets to good points finish at the moment. Ferrari's felt out of position. Mercedes, though, seemed poised to be the only real team that could maybe challenge Max before the race started, bar something crazy. And it was all eyes really on whether or not Lando Norris could, at this track, get far enough up ahead. So the race starts and we have the obvious thing that happened straight away. Well, Isaac Hadjar actually had a little hydraulic issue, didn't he, on the outlap. And they fixed that in time before the start. But the start comes. Oscar Piastri false starts, checks himself, which if you false start, you just got to keep going. That's mistake number 1. Take the penalty. Fernando Alonso also false starts because he reacts to Oscar, gets a 5-second. That's a default penalty. 5 seconds fine. Yeah, and that, these drivers are waiting to react to anything. and Oscar plummets to the back. And then he locks up his inside tyre, inside front left, and plows into the barrier. Brings out the safety car. And at this moment, you're thinking, okay, what can happen? So, boring strategy stuff. Ocon doubles pits at the back to go long. We're not going to talk about him anymore. He ends up getting to 14th by doing that. Didn't bring any more points, but they got to try something. At this moment, it's too early for the other cars to pit. You don't want to get so lost in what's quite a difficult place to pass. There's overtaking opportunities available, but particularly in a DRS-trained track, you don't want to drop too far back. So at this moment, you're really thinking, wow, this is an opportunity for Lando Norris to reduce that 31-point deficit that he went into the race with and make it competitive. Oscar's crashed. He's qualified in the top 4 of every race since Qatar last year. He was on a 34 race point streak, and he was on a 44 consecutive race finishes streak. So uncharacteristic. He did make that mistake in Melbourne where he went wide, but really his first mistake since then. Is the pressure getting to him? You don't know. McLaren came into this weekend being able to win the Constructors had they outscored Ferrari by 9 points. They failed to do so. Presumably, they're going to have to store that kit for another week because it's coming. They're definitely winning the Constructors, but the people are now talking whether Max is a contender. We'll come on to that. I don't think he is. What else do we have? Albon and Colapinto's crash. Albon got a 10-second penalty. Yeah, I think fair enough. Contrast of races, Albon and Carlos, wasn't it? It often happens with those teams. One driver can get really separated. But Carlos basically puts in a great first stint, as does George Russell and Max Verstappen, who basically do the same strategy and go long. The other drivers behind them in the mixed train of Liam Lawson, Tsunoda, Leclerc, Lewis, who managed to jump Alonso, and Hadjar, who went back 2 places at the start. Ferrari's kind of in the mix, and it seems like they're poised. They're all waiting for either rain or for a safety car, both of which didn't come. So we see Leclerc pit early. We see then Lando stay out for a while. We then see Lewis pit, and then shortly after, that gap between Leclerc and Lewis is around 6 seconds when Lewis comes out, and so they drop Lando into the pits, and we see the slow front right, and that really took the moment away, didn't it? It ended up meaning that Lando came up behind Liam Lawson and Tsunoda, and that really lost him an opportunity there because those cars are quick, and they're quick in the right places in the track, and McLaren hadn't looked as pacey as it often had done, particularly earlier in the season. So ahead of that, we did also see Russell get the call to go past Antonelli. Russell had been ill all weekend, and he puts in a great race and ends up finishing P2. Antonelli finds himself behind Carlos Sainz. He can't make any headway, and this is what I think is interesting. So the drivers who had the opportunities to go ahead. So Antonelli can't get the pass on Sainz. Now, is that because he's not very good at overtaking? Maybe. Same with Yuki Tsunoda. Yuki Tsunoda is not very good at setting up overtakes. He didn't drop behind Liam Lawson, did he? But he had DRS, whereas Liam Lawson didn't, and he couldn't find a way to maneuver himself to at least have a go. With Lando and Lewis behind you, at least saw them get close to have sniffs of a real go, but you never really saw it from Yuki. Anyway, so we see Lewis get let past Leclerc, don't we? And at the end, Ferrari's botched letting Leclerc go past back Lewis because they gave Lewis the call too late on the straight. He took responsibility for it, but they called him when he was already at full pelt going down, and he did back off and brake, but Charles was about 1.5 seconds behind him, so they caught that up. The main things to take away, though, Max Verstappen put absolute time between him and George Russell in a super race, and it was flawless, and he put in fastest lap for fun as well. So he gets the hat trick, pole, fastest lap, and the race win. And there's murmurings around whether or not he's in the championship. He's not. He's 69 points behind Oscar, 7 races to go. Would take a serious McLaren dive in form for that to happen, and I don't think we're going to see that. I think this was a blip for McLaren, and I don't think they've particularly fallen down the pecking order. What else have we got? Carlos Sainz. Great. Williams podium. First one since 2021. Superb. And there's something exciting about that Williams team, isn't there? They're building a great culture. You saw Alex Albon going and celebrating Sainz's podium. They're that sort of team where you'd expect that camaraderie. James Vowles clearly onto something, and it's going to be very interesting to see what car they can put together for next year. I think we'll end with this. Who are the best drivers this year? I think the best driver is probably Max Verstappen. He's got 6 pole positions this year. It's a quick car. It's an undeniably quick car, and at certain circuits it's quick. But he is putting in qualifying performance like you used to see Lewis do, actually, where he comes across the line last and has just found a way to be the quickest and hasn't made a mistake. So I think Max Verstappen's the best. Then arguably, Oscar Piastri, been very consistent, been very quick. And then George Russell and Charles Leclerc have had very good years. Ruined their teammates, really. Charles decimated Lewis in qualifying and race finishes, and George has annihilated Antonelli. Lando Norris has been quick, and he's had some really good races, but I think those 3 are probably all tied. It's hard to pull that apart, and I think that's why Oscar's going to end up as the championship leader, I think, now, because Lando's had a couple of opportunities, and he's not been able to find a way to take them, and you can't keep doing that. That's my conclusion. I think we're still going to see Oscar Piastri as the champion this year as we run out of races. And I think we'll leave it there, Marshals. A little rambling for you about the nature of the race, but I think that's because it was a tedious strategy race, wasn't it? It was poised, but nothing ever happened. So we leave Baku with a brilliant national anthem, let's just say. That was an extraordinary display of a national anthem beginning, an extraordinary display by Max Verstappen over the whole weekend, a Williams podium. You've got to be thrilled with that as a Formula One fan, and an excellent performance by Liam Lawson as well, actually, who really held his own and has put some question marks around this Red Bull second seat for next year, which seems to be going Isaac Hadjar's way, but he did make the mistake. Liam Lawson didn't, and Yuki Tsunoda had an all right race. So what do Red Bull do? Well, maybe we'll pick that up next time. Thank you very much, Marshals, and I hope you've enjoyed the episode. Goodbye.